So what do I think the future of Indian motorcycles looks like? And when I say Indian motorcycles, I mean Indian Motorcycles, the company, not motorcycles manufactured in India. Stick around me for a few minutes and let's talk about it. What's up everyone? It's Alex. Today we're back to answering viewer questions, and this one came from a viewer named Toby. And Toby said, I'm interested in hearing your opinion about Indian and what its prospects are over the next few years. Toby actually said more than that, but the rest of it was in response to a Harley Davidson video, so I wanted to just focus on the Indian part of the question. So Toby and all the rest of you, here are my thoughts about Indian motorcycles and its prospects over the next few years. But while I'm thinking about it, if you like the video, hit like. If you're new here, hit subscribe, because it helps to tell me what kind of videos you guys dig so I can keep making that kind of stuff for you guys. So the Indian Motorcycle Company. First off, let's get a couple things straight. The Indian motorcycles that we know today is owned by Polaris Industries. You know, the makers of Razors, and they make ATVs, Rangers. They also were the owner, maker, manufacturer of Victory motorcycles, if none of you guys knew that. So I have owned a couple of their products in the past as far as the Victory motorcycles go. So Indian Motorcycles is basically Polaris Industries' motorcycle division at this point. They lump them in with the slingshots too, but we all know that's not a motorcycle at all. So Indian, especially after they shut down Victory, Indian is Polaris Industries' motorcycle division at this point. So we're not talking about the same Indian motorcycles that made motorcycles 100 years ago, you know. And we're not talking about the reincarnation of Indian motorcycles from 20 years ago-ish. That was a whole different company, a whole different setup. We are talking about the modern version of Indian motorcycles, which is the same in name only. It is a completely different company, different manufacturer, different everything from the classic Indians of the past and from the second iteration of Indian 20-ish years ago, whatever. So when we're talking about the modern iteration of Indian motorcycles, here's basically what has happened with Indian motorcycles thus far. Indian came out the gate several years ago, and for their first 2 years out running, basically as an alternative and a competitor to Harley Davidson, making large, premium, and premium priced American V-twin motorcycles. Their first 2 years out the gate, they kind of had like a meteoric rise. They sold really, really well. It was hard to get your hands on specific models. They did very, very well their first 2 years back on the market because they were making a very nice looking, nice handling, good performing for what it is, premium V-twin alternative to Harley Davidson, right? And they had a legendary name and lineage to attach to that alternative American motorcycle. Whereas with Victory, when they were making Victory and they started making Victory, they had a really hard uphill battle trying to convince the American public especially that this is a really good premium American motorcycle alternative to Harley Davidson. So they came back out, first couple years, just really, really gangbusters, selling motorcycles everywhere, doing really, really great, right? Then they kind of hit this plateau, right? They just kind of flattened out for a little while because they really, when you boiled it down to it, they only had a few different models on the market and they were all direct competitors for large V-twin Harley Davidson stuff. So you're fighting a weird battle there trying to break into and compete with Harley Davidson in the American market. So they flattened out for a little while, and then around 2017, 2018, they started climbing again for two main reasons. One, they brought out the Indian Scout, which did very, very well initially and helped to boost their sales a lot initially. And two, Polaris decided to discontinue and shut down the Victory line of motorcycles, which was also kind of eating into the market share of Indian motorcycles. So basically Polaris said, okay, we have Victory, we have Indian. Instead of making two kind of motorcycles, we're gonna shut down Victory. We're gonna take that away. We're gonna put all of our focus and all of our eggs in motorcycles into the Indian basket. We're gonna take the best ideas we've got from Victory and the best people and everything. We're gonna move them over here and we're just gonna focus on Indian. So they shut down Victory and gained that little tiny bit of market share back for Indian. And they released the Scout, which really helped to push them forward around the 2017-ish into 2018 time frame a little bit. Then after the initial success of the Scout, they kind of plateaued and kind of flatlined again a little bit. Ever since doing that, their sales for the most part have been pretty flat and stagnant, at least in the United States. I mean, there are some months where they put up really, really good numbers when they release large rebates and big incentives and dealers just really start flushing motorcycles out there. But for the most part, ever since the initial appeal of the Scout, they've basically been kind of flat again, right? Which is better than we could say for some motorcycle manufacturers. Some motorcycle manufacturers have been trending down. Very, very few have trended up, but Indian's been just kind of stagnant since then. And then they put out the FTR 1200, and their smaller segment motorcycles have actually been gaining again and doing okay again, but their big stuff has really been flat or losing ground again ever since putting out the FTR 1200. So here's going to be the deal with Indian Motorcycles and the Indian Motorcycle Company, at least in the US, moving forward. First off, they need to continue diversifying their product offerings. So Indian Motorcycles need to not just be a big twin premium alternative for Harley-Davidson. They need to not just compete with Harley-Davidson in Harley's own game. They can do that some and continue proving that they can make a premium motorcycle that is just as good and actually really mostly objectively is better. I know a lot of my Harley fans out there are going to start yelling at me, unsubscribe, whatever, you know, it's just going to happen. Let me know in the comments below. Just go ahead and let me have it. I'm ready. But really, objectively speaking, for a big twin, Indian is producing better motorcycles than Harley-Davidson is for the big V-twin American segment. But Indian is also producing the Scout and the FTR 1200, showing that they are forward-thinking and they are looking towards the future. They're saying, okay, we've done this. Our big motorcycle sales are stagnant. What do we need to do to sell more motorcycles and push towards the future? And I think moving towards bikes like the FTR 1200 and then doing even smaller stuff and really diversifying the number of motorcycles they make for different categories and to appeal to different riders is going to be the thing that would push them forward and do well in the future. If they fail to gain traction with younger riders, they're not going to do so well. If they fail to gain traction in other markets, like if they can't make stuff that appeals really well to Europe and even to Asian markets, they're also going to fail to do well because the US is not the only damn motorcycle market out there, and some of these US companies need to understand and figure out they need to make motorcycles to appeal to the rest of the world if they want to survive and do really, really, really well. But basically, just in summary, I think Indian Motorcycles can do well and can do well moving into the future if they continue to look forward instead of backwards and continue to diversify the number of bikes they have for different categories and to appeal to different people. You know, they should probably make something in a 750 or an 800 or a 600. They should make something in that smaller to mid-size like that to appeal to people that want a smaller to mid-size bike. They need to figure out how to make some really, really nice bikes in the sub $10,000 category. Like the FTR 1200 is really cool, but if you're going to buy an FTR 1200, you're looking at over 10 grand, unless you find one at a huge discount or something, but you're mostly looking over $10,000 US for one, right? So they need to get some motorcycles in that like $8,000 and below category. They need to have nice stuff all the way across the board. Big V-twins are fine. Good touring bikes are fine. The Scout does pretty good for what it is. Continue to work on and develop that line. The FTR series, awesome, awesome stuff. I really enjoyed riding one. Keep the 1200, do different things with that. Maybe make an FTR 750 or something like that would be really, really cool. They probably need to explore and diversify into some inexpensive oriented electric motorcycles. They need to do different things like that. You know, they just need to broaden their horizons and make different kinds of motorcycles. What's the thing that makes people like Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki successful in selling motorcycles? Is it just that Honda made the CB750 back in the 70s? No, it's that these companies make a wide range of motorcycles. So if this segment over here fails, this segment over here might be doing well. They put their eggs in a lot of different baskets across the board and they still struggle some years. So that's what Indian needs to do. Indian will need to continue to put the research and development and marketing into diversifying their product offerings and making sure everyone knows that they've done that and appeal to a wider array of people. That's what they need to do moving forward. If they can do that, they can have a very, very bright future. Whereas Harley-Davidson has been failing to do that, unfortunately. And Harley-Davidson would need to do that too to turn everything back around, like I've discussed in previous videos. But those are my thoughts on it. I hope that's helped or explained it or at least been entertaining or something. As always, have a great day, guys. Ride safe. I'm Alex. Peace.